that up afterwards, but thank you very much. The Secretary General of the ANC, Comrade Fikile Mbalula, will outline the outcomes of the meeting of the National Working Committee and that of the National Executive Committee. Over to you, Comrade SG.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen of the press. The ANC looks forward to the commencement of the 7th Democratic Parliament and the establishment of the Government of National Unity. The ANC negotiations team has over the past week held multiple engagements with political parties who receive seats in the 7th Democratic Parliament. The engagements also looked at the national dialogue that should lead to a social compact on the major challenges, unemployment, inequality, poverty, facing South Africa. The ANC is not yet in a position to give details in relation to these discussions. We started with exploratory discussions, and that led to firming up positions by political parties and us as well, firming up our position, which you know by now is Government of National Unity, with different political parties. Agreements will be made public in the interest of transparency and accountability to the electorate. The ANC is humbled by the fact that the spirit of the engagement with all South Africa's political parties have been characterized by the common commitment to put the interest of the people first and to ensure that our country comes together to address the common challenges it faces. With regards to the selection process of premier candidates for the 6 provinces where the ANC has achieved an outright majority, as well as the 2 where we are a majority party, the interviews with the candidates have gone well. The national officials conducted interviews with ANC premier candidates on May 10, Wednesday to 12 June 2024. All interviews were observed by the chairperson of the ANC's Electoral Committee, Comrade Kgalema Motlanthe, or a member of the committee nominated by him. The Electoral Committee commended the national officials for the integrity of the process and the leadership that they demonstrated throughout. The committee expressed appreciation for the rigorous, thorough and impartial approach by the national officials at a time when they were required to provide leadership in many other pressing national developments. The national officials posed a range of questions to the candidates covering ethical and capable leadership as set out through the eye of the needle and the 6 priorities in the ANC's 2024 election manifesto that are critical to speeding up transformation and improving the lives of the people. Our jobs plan, building our industries to include inclusive economy, tackling the high cost of living, investing in people, and defending democracy and advancing freedom. We also interviewed candidates on building a developmental state, building capable state, local government, etc. We also were impressed by the candidates that were interviewed and commended provinces for quality of their nominees. The ANC renewal process seeks to restore trust and confidence as leader of the National Democratic Revolution. At its last 2 national conferences, the ANC vowed to do more effectively to address society's challenges, conduct its affairs in line with its core values. The candidates that were announced today: Eastern Cape, Lubabalo Oscar Mabuyane; Free State, Comrade Makwin Letsoa Matai; Gauteng, Comrade Hendrik Panyaza Lisufi, Limpopo Comrade Popi Constance Ramatuba, Mpumalanga Comrade Mandla Ndlovu, Northwest Comrade Kagiso Lazarus Bukhosi, Northern Cape Comrade Zamani Sao. The ANC national officials believe that the above comrades are equal to the challenges of our struggle for a better life for all that are difficult and diverse and require honest, capable and dedicated leaders. As we have done since the formation of our movement more than 112 years ago, the ANC will put the interest and the well-being of South Africans first. We have engaged, like we said, with a number of political parties, and we have reached a breakthrough on the common agreement that we need to work together. Whether others call this GNU or they call it any other thing for that matter, but we have agreed that as political parties we need to gravitate to the center, except a few who did not expressly support the GNU, and we are not going to retreat on the concept of the GNU because we believe that the government of national unity to us represent the outcome of the elections. We did not get outright majority. We are a 40% party. We have been supported and voted by 6 million people who want us to continue with the transformational agenda to changing the lives of the people for the better. We are in no position to govern this country alone. We need to work with others. Where we are not in charge, like in KwaZulu-Natal, we leave it to those who are above us to provide leadership and be mature to invite us, if it is possible, to actually participate. Where we lead, like in Gauteng and Northern Cape, we have provided that leadership. And we are talking to political parties as we speak right now. We believe that the agreements that we'll reach will be made public and will be engaged transparently as we move tomorrow towards the election of the President and the Speaker of the National Assembly, and on Saturday to the NCOP, also to elect the chair of the NCOP and other presiding officers. And in this regard, we have engaged in these discussions with an open mind. We know that there are other parties who are on the other side to our thinking. Nonetheless, they've got a majority. They've got people who said they too must come to the party, and we engage them on the issue of the government of national unity, and they've agreed to come to the party. We are not afraid of government of national unity. We will work within this government to represent the interest of 6 million and more South Africans who want to see change, who want to see development, and we will work within the legislatures to entrench the principle of accountability among our public representatives, to fight things like corruption, to ensure that we are held accountable, and where necessary, we are held accountable through the prescripts of the legislative framework and the arms of the state, like the legislature. In this particular instance, we believe that we have reached a major breakthrough, that the majority of political parties in our country agree that this moment requires working together, not to get into it like a melting pot, but with set principles for others which are not negotiable. But nonetheless, there is an importance of working together to move the country forward. South Africa is important to all of us, and South Africans want services, want development, want a functioning government. And we have suffered a setback in this election, a setback that did not mean that we are out. We're still a party, but not with outright majority. So, which means that walking and strutting like peacocks and arrogance cannot work in this instance. The most important political approach, which is matured for our democracy, is the fact that the people have spoken. and they've spoken in the way they've spoken, and we need to interpret that correctly. And people did not say that you must work on your own. They said you must work with others. We defined the concept, and at the same time, everybody embraced this concept, even though others have their own interpretation. So to us, it doesn't matter whether the cat is black or white. The fundamental question is, how do we move South Africa forward, having interpreted the outcome of the elections? So to us, the National Democratic Revolution must breathe life within the framework of the government of national unity, notwithstanding what others want. We understand the anxiety, and we have been victims in the past couple of days of fake news that we have noted, that we keep dealing with in the context of these negotiations, that there is a foregone conclusion that the ANC have got an agreement with certain particular parties and all of that, and which is not the truth. And I've explained at the Rock that we've got no outcome that said to us we will get to this stage where we've got to talk with others. We work flat out not to reach a stage where we have to get ourselves below 50%. Now that we are here, we must talk to everyone. And that is what is important. And with the majority, albeit reduced, of the ANC, we have used that to engage maturely with political parties, and who have understood that this is not the time to exchange blows. We have done that in the campaign. The people have spoken. To vilify and talk bad about other people politically is not important. The ANC want a share of its manifesto implemented, like others. 1%, 2%, 2, 3 seats, 4 seats, they too have been elected by the people of South Africa. So we've opened ourselves up and invited everybody to participate. Beyond that, we need to engage in a national dialogue, and that is what is important. The ANC itself as an organization and as a party, it's time to pause and reflect on this moment, and that political reflection is going to continue as we engage among ourselves, also with our allies, about this moment and what it represents and what we need to do to recover from it going forward. Thank you very much.
So,
Thank you very much, SG. I will take questions. And please identify yourself and the media house you're representing. Over to you, my sister.
Anastasia from Jakarta News. SG, if I understand you correctly, you say at this moment you can't give us the names of any political parties because there's no agreement. But tomorrow, Parliament is sitting and there has to be voting for the Speaker and the President. How is that going to be done if we don't know which parties the ANC is going to work with? Are you not then concerned about the voting that is supposed to happen tomorrow?
We have met with all 17 political parties in the country, and they agree with the ANC. They've also raised their views in terms of what needs to happen in terms of the way forward. And we hope that we'll work with many of them in the election of the President and the Speaker. I'm not in a position at the present moment to deal with the details, as that is a matter that is still in the discussion. And once that is actually concluded, which is really a detail, fundamentally the most important point for us is foundational principles, which the discussions have not been characterized by transactional engagement, where people come to the table and demand this and that. They understand the moment require us to move forward faster, and then all other ingredients of the government of national unity will be defined in a strategic framework that we are working on as we speak. And we're working against time because we thought we'll sit, Parliament will sit later, but we're sitting tomorrow, we are there. So we've been working every day over time, and that's what is important.
Thank you very much. SABC?
It's Natasha Kuya from SABC. Mr. Badula, you said that okay, you can't make the details of the framework public,
But as much as you tell us in due time if you're going to be public or not, will the GNU be binding, legally binding? Thanks.
The statement that I've read to you for the second time, we said that we must, because define constitutionally what GNU represent today. We are not looking at something that is going to collapse like a municipality of Johannesburg or Ekurhuleni and changing the mayor every weekend. So what is important here is that we're governing a country, you know, and then governing the country requires that the GNU itself, as much as the foundational principles are clearer, the most important question, how is it kept together for a period of time and not being petty and not it becoming a melting pot of political parties coming in there and swallowing their identity and failing to hold others accountable in the process of governance. So that's what is important. So the question is how that is going to be. It's a matter that we will keep working on. We don't stop tomorrow. And those who are part of this will be part of the process of shaping up what needs to happen about this GNU phenomenon, including institutionalizing it to an extent that it become part and parcel of the framework of the law in the Republic of South Africa. That will guide us for the next 5 years.
Stanley?
Four questions. Which parties have formally indicated that they accept the invitation to join the GNU? That's the first one. Then is the ANC giving itself a deadline that by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, you must have a sense of who you're going to be, President, the Speaker, etc. Then which leaders will President Cyril Ramaphosa be meeting this evening? Julius Malema has indicated that he is one of them. Will you be meeting John Steenhuisen, for example? And then the last one, the EFF has indicated that they don't want to join the GNU, but they would like to join as speaker or in any other capacity. Are you negotiating outside of the GNU for any reason with any party?
We have negotiated, not negotiated, we have engaged in exploratory discussions with MK Party, and we will continue to engage with them in exploratory discussions. We have engaged in exploratory discussions with the EFF, and we did not find each other on the issue of the GNU. We have accepted that particular point, we move on. We have engaged with the DA. We agree on the GNU with them. We have engaged with PA, they agree with the GNU. We have engaged with UDM. They agree with GNU. We have engaged with the IFP. They agree with the GNU. We have engaged with Al-Jama, albeit with the reservations. They agree to work with us going forward. We have engaged with Rise Mzansi. They did not have challenges, except matters of the detail in terms of how the GNU is going to shape up. They are not fundamentally opposed to it. We have engaged with Freedom Front Plus. They've agreed to the GNU, and we have engaged with National Colored Congress. They've also agreed, but have got reservations in relation to how that shaped up going forward. So we have not spoken to UAT. We have not spoken to Action SA because UAT, I think it's just a question of time. We will talk to them between now and tomorrow and engage with them and so on. Action SA, we are open to engaging with them, even though we know that they've pronounced that they don't want to talk to the ANC. We think that is something that constrain engaging with them, but nonetheless, we have not closed the door from talking to them. So we have talked to all more or less 17 plus political parties except 2. And then you know that other political parties have been in court, not knowing whether they will be there tomorrow and all of that. But we have had exploratory discussions, which were good and exploratory and progressive and all of that. the spirit of the discussion in terms of the foundational principles of all of this is that you don't share power, but you work with others in a way of cooperation. And then in this particular instance, the ANC would like to work with as many political parties as possible. We have spoken to the IFP, and also they have agreed to come to the party in terms of the GNU. So that to us represents a major breakthrough. The question of the detail of what happens tomorrow, it's a matter that will be pronounced by the parties concerned overnight and up until tomorrow. That will happen. The work doesn't stop tomorrow. It continues to the formation of government itself once the president is elected. But also in terms of working in the legislatures, these are uncharted waters in which a majority party like ours is reduced with its majority, and now it has got to work with other political parties within the framework of collaboration, which we have never had before except at local government. Now at national government, we've got it. How do we then deal with that particular matter going forward? So our discussions, it's not a discussion with partners, it's discussion with political parties irrespective of ideological and political background. Of course, others want to narrow us to the ideology when the posture and the moment does not allow. It is very easy to say, let's work as black political parties and do that. We can argue the whole night about the ideology. We in the ANC do not subscribe to the notion of just narrowly black political party, because in terms of our existence and understanding of South Africa, we subscribe to colonialism of a special time. That South Africa was colonized, but it became a colonized country where the colonized and the colonizer coexisted. So we are different from others precisely because of that. Two, we are non-racial because in our conceptualization of the struggle to liberate our people, the primary contradiction are about the resolve of the national question, which primarily it's about, yes, it is class, but gender and race, because we were divided in this country in terms of race and racially segregated. So the question of resolving the national question primarily is what informed the ANC and how we approach the South Africa's situation and struggle and liberation for the people of South Africa. So we are not just a party that exists without ideology and just grab everything else that passes by, and we don't understand ourselves and where we come from. The notion of blackness arises in the context of others, where in which it is not clearly defined. From the point of view of ideology, what are we talking about? And working in cooperation, it doesn't mean that tomorrow you become that party or that party becomes you. It means here is the moment. You have lost power, and in losing that power, you need to work with others to achieve the result. But it doesn't mean that you are going to die. We have never died in 1994 with 62%. We'll never die with 40%. 6 million people want us to live, and we are going to live. Living means pursuing the national democratic revolution. And that is what is fundamental to us in terms of our policies, in terms of our manifesto, and that is it. We are not going to pursue a manifesto of another party or be forced to become another party and all of that. Neither will those parties accept to be. Yeah, we are talking to people who wanted us to be below 50%, and they've achieved that particular result, including those who characterize themselves as left. They wanted us to be in this moment. Now they want to lock us into a prison because that's what they wanted to achieve. We're not going there, to that prison. Whether you can call it Polsmo and all of that, it will remain empty without us. We are standing on the side of things where in which we say, let's work together. And that is what is fundamental to us. And this working together is not transactional. It's not about, I want this post and that post, I want this position and that position. The question is, how do we work together with this result to serve the people of South Africa better? This is what the people wanted. We didn't want it. And then we interpret what the people want correctly in order to serve the people of South Africa. And that is why we say, in the foundational principles, one of the important and imperative that we need to subscribe to is constitutionalism, the rule of law. And at the same time, we need to subscribe to non-sexism and non-racialism. You know, the binding principles that arise out of our constitution. And that is what is important. And then we work for South Africans. Everybody subscribe to the notion that we are for South Africa first. This is where we are. And then let's go and move forward and work together as a nation and as different political parties. It doesn't mean that we are going to agree in this parliament and it's going to be nice in the next 20 days and so and all of that, or in this government and all of that part. We are going to move South Africa forward in a particular strategic framework to get things to happen.
New York Times?
Hi, SG, John Elligo with the New York Times. Just two questions. Have you all, I know you said that the agreement still needs to be formalized and there are still things that need to be figured out, but have you all garnered enough support to get President Ramaphosa re-elected tomorrow? And the second question, when do you anticipate that the full details of the GNU will be set in stone and sealed? Will that happen tomorrow, or do you think that it's going to be a longer-term thing as Parliament is going on?
We will deal with that matter tomorrow. The strategic framework will be made available once it is agreed and will be signed by political parties that agree to it. And it will be a document that will be engaged by everybody. And then we'll take it from there. The question of tomorrow is not about whether the president gets elected or not. We need to get the country and move the country forward. And tomorrow is the beginning of that. And that's what is important. But like I said, tomorrow is an important beginning in the post-elections period. And we have subscribed to the notion that we can work together. And working together means that there's a whole lot of things that we still need to work on in these uncharted waters in relation to how we're going to behave, work together, safeguard the interests of our constituencies and our people going forward. And that's what is important for us.
Thank you very much. And I go right at the back and then I'll come, this will be the last round. Right at the back, please identify yourself, my brother.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Mawani from the Sunday Times. SG, the DA, according to the information that we get, is that they say the part of their demands, if they get into the national executive or they get some positions in the legislature, they want to govern them without interference, which basically means they want to implement their own policies without the interference of the other parties of the GNU. What is the stance of the ANC to something about?
We are in the negotiations. The DA is not a branch of the ANC. They've got the right to think for themselves. They've got the right to put issues on the table. We engage. And so stop disabuse yourselves about thinking what the DA thinks is ANC and what ANC thinks is DA. If I say this today and then the DA disagrees with me and the ANC, doesn't mean that the DA have ceased to be DA. And that is what is important. So the ANC engages with everybody with decency, maturity, and the most important thing to safeguard who we are and what we represent. And briefly what I talk about here, which is the National Democratic Revolution. It's a long thing to explain in a press conference. It will need a workshop and a lecture advert for you to understand who we are and what we stand for. So I'm just dealing with the synopsis of it. And all what I'm explaining here is that we are involved in a discussion and there is nobody who has come to us with demands. There are people who say, okay, this is what we think. And then we negotiate. That's the nature of negotiations. That's the nature of engagement. And if somebody says, no, to find each other, we think we must move in this direction, that's it. And it doesn't mean that that political party, when you find each other, you have now disappeared, you have killed your identities. That's not what it means. There is this hurried thought which is selling like petrol, not even petrol, paraffin, that the ANC has got a deal with the DA and is about to be swallowed. How do you get swallowed with 6 million people? And if the DA were to get some of these things that it wants, it means the ANC will be dead. We have been pushed back, but we are not out. So we are in no position to abandon everything else of what we believe in with 6 million people who have voted for us. Our people every day and our membership, which is fragile at the present moment because we are below 50, has been pushed back, and it is said to them every day that the ANC is going. It is not, because 6 million people said it's not time for us to go. So we'll move from that 6 million to come back, and that's it.
Very much. Newsroom.
Thank you very much. It's Zianda from Newsroom Africa. We've just come from a briefing with Julius Malema, where he's been saying that this, has not been transactional, but he's basically said that if you don't reinstate Ulebo Dunga as the finance MMC in whatever was discussed with the president is off the table. My question goes back to is twofold. The first is the ANC's reflection of how these discussions, exploratory conversations, however you frame it, have actually had possible permutations at a provincial and a local government level. But again, the question that my colleague Bloomberg asked, who's the president meeting with tonight? Because Julius Malema said that he's meeting with the president. Does this also include the DA's John Steenhuisen?
The president has met with Julius Malema in Johannesburg yesterday. He has met with John Steenhuisen. He's meeting with the leader of the IFP. He will meet with others that he will meet with if they deem it fit that they want to see the president. And that is what is important. We've got a negotiating team led by the Secretary General. We have met all political parties. We are not closing the door to anybody. What is discussed between closed doors, between leaders, is not a matter sometimes of public consumption, because you've got to respect each other. Those are the parameters. Because if you talk to somebody and then you then say, even before you reach an agreement, and then address the media and say, if the following do not happen, I'm not coming, and easy. So what are you trying to say? So who said that you will be engaged? We are negotiating, we are engaging with everybody, but not with the cap in the head. There's nothing we beg from the EFF, anywhere in the country. And we are engaging with them with decency. And if they treat us like as if we don't exist and we are addressed like that, we don't think that's the way for political parties to speak to each other. The ANC speaks even to a party with one man seat, because the moment you start to play big and become arrogant, that's not the nature of democracy and leadership. We might have talked things during the campaign and engaged, crisscross the country, criticize each other. The country has now spoken. Interpret that moment and decide. We have done that. This is not the time to be telling somebody whether he's relevant or irrelevant. The question is that the people have spoken and they've said, we don't give you an outright majority. So what do you do about it? The ANC must go all out here, throwing tantrums against EFF and everybody else. The moment require us to sit around the table and talk. If the discussions are going to be deadlocked by transactional issues that happen at local government level, it's a choice of a political party that it makes, and I can't pronounce on that. I'm neither a spokesperson of the EFF or it's fair.
Eyewitness News.
Talisoko from Eyewitness News. Mr. Balunga, the ANC in the past has always had a posture, at least for local governments, that the party with the most votes has to be the one that forms the government. Even with the ANC right now, with 40% leading these GNU talks. So I just want to know that how does this align with the actions of the ANC in KZN, where it is forming a coalition that excludes the party with the most votes in KZN, being obviously the MK party?
We have not excluded any party. It is upon the party that leads in KZN to interpret the moment. So that party, when it was supposed to interpret the moment and the responsibility that the people of KZN has given to it, it went to the Constitutional Court. And then we've been waiting for that. So the Constitutional Court pronounced yesterday. The ANC didn't win power. The ANC talks to everybody. So if people invite us to come to the GNU or Provincial Government of National Unity in KZN, we've been there before. And then we give our structures in the context of our framework, the mandate to respond to that situation in the manner in which they could. And we have not won power. If we won power in KZN, we would have spoken to everybody. Without outright majority, we would have spoken to everybody. Nationally, we didn't win power outrightly. We went to our NEC and decided and asked a strategic question. Like Lenin will ask, what is to be done? And then we answered, Government of National Unity. We went and we talked to everybody about it. Here is our position. Our president pronounced publicly, in the presence of the NEC at its conclusion, that we are moving with Government of National Unity, transparent and openly. Having engaged the whole day, because some of you reported that we are going to kill each other in that meeting. And that you see our meeting here did not even last for hours. It's gone. But there are people who are going to come and tell you that, and about 4 people, 5 people spoke in this meeting. But we are going to have 10 people who would have interpreted things we never know about out of this meeting. Now, the ANC have engaged with everyone. And we've got no responsibility in KZN to form government. And we have been approached and we have responded to that. And that's it. We have responded to that and will continuously engage with everybody in that particular context. So in Gauteng, we are leading. We don't have outright majority. We are speaking to all political parties. That's the initiative we have done. So we don't take the votes of the people for granted. And then we sit back. People have voted for us. We don't do anything about what mandate they've given to us. We respect them. We respect the 6 million people who have voted for us because they still want us to be in government. If we got 3 million people, I know, we will be stepping back and allowing others to lead. That will mean you are out of power. So you've got to be invited. We are when you invite yourself to a party, you are going to arrive there and then they don't give you food, they don't give you alcohol, they drink alone, and then they say, we don't know who you came with. So you don't do that. So even political parties with 1 seat, 2 seats have respected themselves in the process. They are not transactional, they are engaging, they talk about their interest and all of that. The ANC has got to respect that. That's democracy. We fought for that democracy. Painful as it is for us today that we are below 50%, but it's a democracy. That's what we fought for here in this country. That is so vibrant, bloodless, that you don't have protests, people crying and saying that we are robbed everywhere else in the country, accepting the results, and the majority party and the ruling party accepting the outcome and not doing shenanigans that are not clearly defined. That tells you that we are leading a solid country, and that is South Africa. And we should be proud as a South African today to be in South Africa after the elections. There is still the state The police are there, the army is still there. There is a president who is waiting to be inaugurated, whom we don't know whether he will be confirmed tomorrow. That's the democracy. It's at play. So you've got to understand it in that way. You know, it took many countries a long time to be where we are. It took us a very short space of time because the foundation was strong. And what was that foundation? It's our constitution. Our people were queuing, they had challenges and all of that and so on. Some did not even vote and all of that. And they were not very impatient in the queues and they left and so on. But who else has ever come out in this country and said, I think these elections are not free and fair? Except one party that I don't want to talk about. And it went to court and that's it. So the fact of the matter is that it's a democracy. We have accepted. Our results came out quicker as agreed. Sunday, the results will be certified, will be pronounced. We were all at the results center. We are done with elections now. And that's where we are.
The last hand will be yourself, my sister, right there at the back. Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, you'll be the last one.
I just wanted to get clarity on Mawani's question. Because it's not limited to the DA, this question around the sealed mandate. You said just now that the ANC wants to advance and drive its own manifesto in terms of the service administration. And I would imagine that every single political party that is in negotiations with is ideally wanting the same. So have you discussed, as the ANC, are you going to be able to entertain political parties that are saying to you that these particular departments that they will be running, they will drive their own policy? Because as much as we want to equate this moment to 94, it is not.
It is definitely not 94. We are not equating it in any way. We have characterized it properly. We said it's a moment with a different outcome that require us to respond to it. And that is why when we characterized it, we didn't arrive at a single solution that fits all. We said that the moment first, politically, how do we characterize it? Is that we have lost elections. South Africans want us plainly to govern with others together. That's what we said. So what solution do you have for that outcome? We said it requires a government of national unity. The government of national unity of 1994 was entrenched in the Constitution, and it was not to be there forever. So we then said this movement requires us for everybody to work together, then let's talk to everyone, and so that people can contribute to it. And that is why we talk about Lizeka, a strategic framework that is going to come out of this process towards the establishment of this government of national unity. It will be reflected in the executive, this government of national unity. It will also be reflected also in the legislatures and the National Assembly and all of that. It is no longer a situation where you are a 60% party, you are dominant, you can do things alone. You've got to work with others, albeit with limited roles. Not that when you come to the National Assembly committees and everything is ANC-led. This moment and the situation and the outcome does not permit us to do that. So you've got to then put the mind together in terms of how you are then going to navigate through that particular process and work around it to ensure that it serves everybody. But in serving everybody doesn't mean it's a melting pot where in which each of these political parties don't have an identity, and that's it. Yes, they don't have an identity, they don't have a program of action and all of that. The question of sealed agreements, remember, we've got the Constitution. It must be also located because there is nothing in the Constitution that talks about within state departments sealed agreements. It's unconstitutional. You'll be challenged here in South Africa that we are doing something unconstitutional. We've got Chapter 9 institutions that keep us in check. We've got a constitution that enables us to respond to situations when we're faced with difficulties. There is nothing that says you constitute an executive with others through sealed agreements. The question is, how do you then safeguard your interest within the government of national unity to pursue the mandate of your constituents? It's constraining, it's complex, it's a question of how, in the context of the law, the government of national unity navigate that. The foundational principle of what we all agree about with everybody, we want stability. We don't want anarchy here, where tomorrow government is coming down and then there are challenges and all of that and so on. And when we talk about stability, it's not, I've seen other people vulgarizing it to the extent of even talking about the markets and everything else and so on. We're talking stability in terms of governance. Today, you don't have stability in local government because of the partners you choose. There is no framework because you work with political parties there who change depending on what is the weather that day. And then this weekend, if they want to elect a new speaker and they come together about it, they do that. It has brought stability. Look at Pretoria. Look at Tshwane. What it has done in terms of stability in those areas. You say in Johannesburg, you say there are potholes. When we were governing alone in Johannesburg, there was stability in relation to service delivery. Pick it up, everything you can talk about. So you don't see the effect of stability, of destabilization from the program, from the problem of changing governance and all of that, because in certain, the model of some of these municipalities does not insulate the public servants from the political leadership. But in terms of our constitution, the state is intact, political leadership can change and everything else, but government will function. But government can be destabilized by the political setup if there is no stability there. So we serve the interest of the people of South Africa, and when we put these principles across and talking about this GNU we are talking about, whether we call it cooperation or we call multi-partyism and all of that, people agree about this is what binds us together. We are in if you are pursuing the following. And that is what is important.
You'll be the last person.
Madlingi, are you still sure you see people put it there the last?
No, SG.
Okay. All right.
It was recognized, and of course we can't sleep here, colleagues. It's really been long, and I think the SG has indulged all of us. You'll be the last person.
I just have 3 questions for the SG. My first question is...
3.
Were you surprised by the election results and the huge loss of support for the ANC? And the future of the GNU is going to be dominated by the ANC in most conservative parties such as the DA and the RP, which sort of evidence with the history of the up-to-date era, and why is this the ANC?
That's definitely 5 questions.
Yeah. Let's remind you that in 1994, we came into a government of national unity, even with people who took us to jail. Did we die? We didn't. Did we survive that moment? We did. Did we deliver for our people? We did. Right? So this moment itself is not like we're going into something or conceptualize something that defines the death of the ANC. So what it means is that you didn't win elections, and how do you respond to this particular moment? And that's it. And for anyone to change the constitution requires 2/3 majority. And the foundation, which is our constitution, all the important things that we wanted to achieve are entrenched in the constitution, also in terms of the Bill of Rights. So they are not going to be changed because that's not the mandate of these political parties. None of these political parties have got a mandate to change the constitution which we adopted in 1996, which guarantees the rights. Let's say, for instance, there is a party that would have come into this GNU with ultra-conservative ideas, backwardness, tribalism, and all of that. They will not be able to amend the constitution. To do that, they must get 2/3 majority. So we are safeguarded and defended by the constitution. That's the first thing you must understand. This notion that when you talk to a political party that you are opposed to diametrically and ideologically, you are actually showing signs of being swallowed by the enemy or your opponent. It's incorrect. Let's argue in political terms what is enemy for the ANC. Because there is overlapping between what you characterize as the enemy and to your strategic opponent. Will I say the person who sits opposite to me in the benches, yeah, the DA, the EFF, and everybody else, are they enemies? No, they are strategic opponents. I know my enemy. My enemy, as much as it's not clearly defined like before 1994, the enemy was apartheid machinery. Let's render it unworkable and fight it. Today, the enemy is more sophisticated in terms of what it comes to represent against the ANC and the ideals of the African National Congress. Will the ANC abandon its ideas in terms of its foreign policy and the ANC in terms of what it stands for? Let's say for the people of Palestine, the people of Western Sahara and everywhere else, Cuba and everywhere. We're not going to change that. Will the DA change from what it represents? It will not change. Why do you mislead South Africa into an ideological, I don't know, highway of sort, that if you talk to this one, we are gone? I see cheap politicking even on social media, that you can imagine this. Now, people think of things like, if you imagine this, it means the ANC is gone. That is misleading, populist, and at the same time seeking to hijack the revolution through populism. It is not like that. It is not like that. No political party that is going to die here simply because it agrees with GNU. We've got a strong constitutional foundation that leads us. And if the ANC abandons all the ideals of what it stands for in this particular process, then it will mean the ANC have gone below 6 million people to 1 million people. We are told here by people who have campaigned very hard to bring us below 50%. We are below 50%, they don't know what to do. Because they have achieved their goal, that we must be below 50%. When they were conceptualizing the idea of bringing us under 50%, what were they thinking? Didn't they think that the revolution will be compromised to this extent of being vulnerable? That you've got to talk to people that under normal circumstances you were not supposed to talk to, over matters that you could resolve internally in the party. They did not. Think about this moment, that you are pushing back the gates of the revolution. You are setting us back, and this is what it has done. So we are on the recovery, and we still have got to think hard about this moment, not just cheap politicking and ideological distortion that has been doing rounds all over the place. The key question before us and revolutionaries is, having suffered a setback, how do you then claw back? And that is what is important. And in this particular instance, the responsibility is on us to define how we are going to move forward, not on these political parties and everyone else. We know our enemies, right? We know our opponents. Our opponents are here in this National Assembly. And they won votes. The people have voted for them. They've given them votes, including those who broke away from us. They've got votes. And the question before them is, with these votes that we got, what do we want to do with them? Others, the votes that they got, they won positions. Right? Others, the votes that they got, we don't know what they want. So the question is, we shouldn't be here, we are here, and what do we do about it? The ANC is applying itself to that. And that is why today we're talking GNU. We talk GNU even when we got 62% overwhelming majority with Mandela, because we're addressing reconciliation. We are very aware that this GNU does not address reconciliation. It addresses the interest of the people of South Africa first, given the outcome of the election. How do we advance the interest of the people in unity? That is not elusive. That is what is fundamental about this GNU. That even if you can go and mobilize others and work on your own, will that not polarize this society further and basically set the country on a backward motion and bring about instability in the country? The country does not flourish, does not advance. This moment can make us even to gain more. Even in things that we could not do, we can do them in this moment going forward. That's what it is. That's what it is, because somebody somewhere did not go and vote or voted otherwise and did not even vote for the ANC. Will you punish that person by bringing instability in the country and turn this beautiful country to something else? No, ANC is not going to do that. ANC will work for the stability of the country and will engage everybody through a national dialogue, and we will join it, not on our own, but with the rest of South Africans. Maybe people have been talking and they think we are not listening, and they needed us to be in this moment for us to listen to them, and that is what is important. So the question is, as a revolutionary party, you don't become arrogant and you don't become you don't suffer from inertia. You give yourself a moment to reflect and think, and in order to advance, and that's what is important. So I studied Mao Zedong in terms of the guerrilla warfare, and what he says is that to take 3 steps backward does not mean defeat. It means a reflection. Look at where China is today. So I don't know where we are in South Africa. We didn't take 3 steps backward. The people made us